So let's have a little chat, shall we? Let's have a little chat on the early morning. This is your host, The Occult View. I know I haven't been posting, as much because I've really been in deep spiritual, um, just deep spiritual thought. I've literally been out of my body, just meditating and just understanding, the world and understanding the universe and what's really happening and just looking beyond the BS and all of the propaganda and all of the fear mongering and all of the illusions that are put forth right here on this institution that we call YouTube. There are so many people that put out misinformation in so many ways. It's really, really disturbing, but people can do them. Um, I want to talk about the alchemy of fear and how fear, as I was just talking about a couple of minutes ago, how fear really motivates and controls a lot of people's spirituality. And one of the reasons it's so interesting, every time I do a video, I start hearing a helicopter flying over my building. Very interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. Every time I do a video, I hear a helicopter or something disturbs me. Interesting. I'm not making any claims, but interesting. So, fear, as we all know it, is really it's a stopper. It can cause stagnation in your spiritual journey, no matter what anyone wants to say about it, no matter what people say, well, I'm not afraid of anything. But if it's embedded in your subconscious, if it's embedded in the subconscious, then that is how you're going to move in fear. And I'm talking about myself. I had to learn this experience as well. You know what I'm saying? I had to learn this experience as well. A lot of us were brought up in fear based homes. And when I say fear based homes, I'm talking about in terms of heaven and hell. If you are a good person, when you die, you get rewarded with heaven. If you're a bad person when you die, you get punishment and you go to hell. Not only is that that's very limiting in and of itself, but it also puts limits on your subconscious mind. Because those of us who understand spirituality and really understand quantum mechanics and all of those different things, we know that there are more realms than just what we call heaven or hell. There are many different layers and levels within those dimensions, right? And the darker forces, the ignorant forces, they're not powerful. But these darker forces or spiritual darker forces that are ignorant, and newsflash, they're human beings. They want to keep people locked down into the lower dimensions, or as some of you say, your lower chakras. And one of the best ways to do that is through the mind control and programming of heaven and hell. Anything that takes the focus off of you is antichrist. It's anti-magic. It's anti-life. Anything that it's no, I'm sorry, not anti-life, it's anti-spirit. Anything that takes the focus off of you and your own personal spiritual journey with God, the universe, or the great spirit, as I like to call it, the great spirit, the high spirit. is what I like to call it. In Native American culture, which is part of my culture as well, because my ancestors originally from here were Native American, and I have proof to prove that. Um, they referred to God as the Great High Spirit or the Most High Spirit. And that can be the universe, that can be whatever you want it to be. But anything or anyone that tries to derail you from that, and I'm sorry, that even means some of our ancestors who took Christianity and instead of expounding on it and using it as a tool to or for spiritual growth, it became a crutch and it became a a radicalized religion that was used to imprison more souls. There are a lot of people trapped in the astral realm who are Christians who have died because they're looking for the throne of God or they're looking for Jesus Christ. And they're not finding that, but what they are finding is that they are trapped in the lower levels of, let's just say, the astral, which is a dimension in and of itself. They're trapped in the lower levels of the astral realm. Even the astral realm has higher levels and lower levels. And as I'm sure some of you who are, well-known occult, not well-known, but well-trained occultists and spiritualists, you understand that. And that's because they did not cultivate spirituality when they were alive. What they cultivated was egotism. They cultivated following something that they didn't understand, and they really did not do enough, I'm going to say, alchemy to turn that into a spiritual path. See, Christianity as it is now is not a spiritual path as it is now. It was when it was in its raw form in Gnosticism. Because the spiritual system before Christianity was Gnosticism. And even Sylvia Brown talked about that. And it gave you a totally different scope and Gnosticism predated the current Christianity that exists now. And it was not based upon fear. It was based upon light, darkness, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Because all of those elements go together. And it talked about the evil God that created this world, Yahweh, Yaldabaoth, all of the different names, Jehovah, Ahariman, the evil God that created this world really came from another being by accident. The real God, which is the great, I think they call it the great Mother Sophia or something like that, who came from a realm of light. That was where Christ came from. They talked about that in Gnosticism. And of course, what do people do when these texts come about? They will say, oh, those are lies mixed with truth. Okay. Well, if they are lies mixed with truth, and this is not about debating anyone, people can have their own beliefs and people can believe what they want to believe. But when I hear people say that these are lies mixed with truths, then what do you say about the plagiarisms that we've seen in not only Christianity, but also in Islam as well? I know people don't like that. And I'm not attacking the religion. Well, yes, I am in a way. I'm attacking the radicalization of it and the ideology that people don't have any other options. Because when you really sit back and think about this, when you really sit back and think, your only two options are if you are a good person. If you are a good person, you go to heaven. If you are a bad person, you go to hell. If you do good things, you get rewarded. Rewarded. If you do bad things, you get punishment. If you really look at the connotation of that in its entire element. If you really look at it, what it's really saying to people is you are nothing more than cattle. You're nothing more than animals. You're nothing more than slaves. And we will give you what we want to give you. Let me tell you a story. When I was a teenager and I had no choice, and I used to go to church with my great grandmother, we went and visited a church. I believe it was in West Virginia. It was called Beulah Land. I believe Beulah Land Methodist Church or something like that. And, even when I was in the church as a child and maybe a very young adult, but I was in the church, but I was never of the church. They could never fully indoctrinate me the way that they wanted to. Now, when I was a little boy, I had no choice but to get christened. I was christened in the Methodist church, and many years later, I got baptized because I was afraid. I was a child when I got baptized because I was afraid of hearing all the stories of going to hell and all these other things. So we went to this church called Beulah Land, and when we after the service, when we got ready to go downstairs to the basement to eat, food wasn't all that great either, by the way. But when we went downstairs to eat, I saw how they set up the table for the pastor and his family. And I saw how they set up the table for the other people, which was us. And something didn't sit well in my spirit. I said, we're all supposed to be equal. If we're all supposed to be brothers and sisters in Christ, why are they treating him and his family better than they're treating us? His table had all of these beautiful garments. It had a crown. I mean, it had all of these edifices that made it look like he was, or it made it appear as if he was better than the rest of us. And even as a teenager, I felt a ways about that. I felt a ways about that. I said, why would they set him up like that? And the rest of us, we just get a regular table. That's what I'm talking about when I say we have become cattle. We've become followers. That is what religion was designed to do, to make people followers. And not just in this world, but also in the astral world as well. There are a lot of spirits and souls trapped over there in that religious tonation. They're trapped. They have no power because they believed what these people said. They believed them, and some of them are even trapped in the versions of hell that are talked about in the Bible. There are astral versions of that. I've seen them, but I didn't experience them because I'm a more highly advanced spirit. I'm not going to even tell you some of the Hollywood celebrities that I have seen. I'm not going to even tell you, because if I told you all, it would cause some problems. Some things I just don't like to say. But there's one particular Hollywood celebrity that people think that she's still alive, and she's not. She's in that lower astral realm. I've seen her there. And I have to stop denying these things to myself. I have gifts that I be trying to deny sometimes because I be like, no, that can't be. No, it's being. It's be. It be. There's another one that people think is still alive, but I don't think she's alive no more either. And I'm going to tell you who that one is. And no, I ain't going to tell you that. No, I cannot say that. Seer, you can't say that. No, I can't say it. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to leave that alone. But people are getting trapped because they're not really cultivating their spirit. They're cultivating religion, which a lot of these religions, they promote antichrist agendas because they're not really teaching the real teachings of Christ. That is why when I hear dumb bitches who run back to the church and then trying to come over here and tell people that they need to stop doing this and they need to stop doing that, bitch. Well, if they need to stop doing it, bitch, then why did you start doing it? Why did you start doing it? A lot of you run back to the church, which is your business. You run back to the church because spiritualism and occultism was never for you in the first place, especially when you were using it to harm people and to do things that were petty. Now, we can use our magic for defense. I believe in defense and I believe in protection. But when you are actively doing things to harm people, especially when when someone is talking about harming a woman and her unborn child or her baby, which is what we see a lot of. When you see people doing shit like that, then they end up running back to the motherfucking church and then they want to come on YouTube and tell other people why they need to go back to the church too. While we loved our grandmothers and our great grandmothers, they were not always right. They came from a time where they had to Christianize everything, especially the ancestors before them. They had to Christianize everything and put white faces on a lot of their saints so they could continue practicing their religion in stealth mode. But that's what a lot of you don't understand because you don't fucking read. But then you want to sit up and tell other people they're wrong for practicing witchcraft, voodoo, or whatever they want to practice. When there are many paths to the high spirit. It's all in the heart of the person. It's not about what you practice. It's about what's in your heart and your motivation for practicing it. Sometimes you might have to go through the darkness in order to find the light. Sometimes that is a person's spiritual journey, such as myself. Because I'm one of the people, and it's not because I don't need to get into that. I don't need to get into that. But sometimes you have to go through the dark in order to find the light. Sometimes that is a person's spiritual path. And some of these false prophets and prophetess, what they'll do is they will try to come in and steal fear frequencies inside of you and tell you, oh, what you're doing is wrong. You're going to go to hell. Or you're going to die or something like that. People that say things like that, they are very spiritually immature, and they're the ones who are afraid of death and hell. And they're the ones who are actually going to go to those lower places. They're the ones who are going to go there. And they know it subconsciously. That is why they want to take as many people with them. That is the devourer. That is the devil. Not Satan, not Lucifer. It's the choices that these people make. What is devilish and demonic is when you try to stand in the pathway of someone else's spiritual path. That is the straight path, as they say, to hell. That is the straight path to hell. See, everyone has everything backwards. The crooked path, when people say the crooked path to heaven, when you're on a crooked path, right? When you're on a crooked path, just follow me. When you're walking a crooked path in the road, that road can lead to many different places. It can lead you to many different paths, but you're going to the same place. It's all going to lead to the same place. That's the crooked path. But when people say the straight path to hell, no. The straight path to hell is really the path that a lot of these Christians are taking. Because they're taking one way. They're going one way. They're going one direction. They're using one path, and they're not gaining any spiritual knowledge. See, the crooked path that people talk about is symbolically talking about the many different paths to the high spirit. And sometimes you might have to go through the storm. You might have to go through the valley of the shadow of death to get to the high spirit. Maybe there's some things you need to clean up in your own karma, layman terms, allegedly. Maybe. Maybe. But this is all part of the fear of alchemy when they tell people, "Oh, you're on the straight path to hell." No, that's Christians and that's other religious people. They're on the straight path to hell because they take a straight path and they don't gain any other spiritual knowledge on the crooked path, which has many different uh, avenues. Because when you take the crooked path, there are many different pathways that you can take. Jesus even said that in the Bible, there are many mansions in my Father's kingdom. And you can interpret that however you want. But my interpretation of that, or one of them, is that there are many paths to the high spirit or God. There are many paths to that. And as long as you're not doing anything evil to harm other people and to impede on their path, then it's really none of your business how another person chooses to take their path. That's just like when Brother Panic died. All of these weirdos started making all these videos, talking all of this crazy stuff. Oh, he was a Satanist. He did this, he did that. And none of these people, I guarantee you, none of these people, I promise you, that have said these things, and I'm not taking up for him. I'm just talking. But all of these people that were talking and saying this and that and that and this, none of these people are doing any real spiritual work. They're not. Because if they were, they would not have time to focus on other people and someone else and what they're doing. That is the straight path to hell. And I've seen for the past 40 some years that I've been alive, I have seen so many Christians and people take that very same path, the straight path to hell, the straight path to the grave with no twists and turns, no reprieve, no hope for a reprieve or no hope for a miracle. They go straight, that's the straight path that they take. Then they wonder why a lot of times when they pray to Jesus, their prayers don't get answered. You know why your prayers are not getting answered? When you pray to Jesus, a lot of you, the reason your prayers are not getting answered is because you're not aligned with the Christ consciousness. See, I am. My prayers, if I have to tap into that, my prayers produce results. My meditations and manifestations produce results. And I'm not saying that I'm the biggest and the baddest, but maybe I am. How about that? Maybe I am. Maybe I am that, which you don't understand. And I'm not talking to the people that watch me genuinely. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about the people, the spiritual wickedness and high places that people are talking about. It's really not in high places. You got to read between the lines. The spiritual wickedness is in low places. It's in low places. But they have high intentions. But it's in low places. But the reason their prayers are not getting answered and the reason that it doesn't really work for them is because they're not aligned with the Christ consciousness. You're aligned with Jesus, but not the Christ consciousness. So your prayers fall on deaf ears. You talk about witches and witchcraft so much. Do you know how many witches are up in the church? Do you know how many witches I have in my family? Witches in my bloodline. Warlock is in my bloodline, and I'm not ashamed of it. Testify. Shimimimoshka. In quale moche. I'm not ashamed of it. But that is not the only path that I choose to take. Because they have radicalized Christianity. They've radicalized something that should not be radicalized, and they've turned it into an alchemy of fear. And then people wonder why people are leaving the church. I understand what people say about, at least the church gave black people some form of foundation within spirit. I understand that. But you also have to understand why people are leaving the church. People are leaving the church because the church has become tainted by the spirit of the Antichrist. For example, my same great grandmother, when she died, the church that she had been a member of, it was a Methodist church, they treated my family very badly. And these were other black people. They treated my grandmother very badly and my family very badly when my great grandmother died. They barely wanted to give her a service at the church. Then for the repast, they told us, oh, we can only feed maybe 50 people. And, I think they boiled some rice and boiled some chicken and gave us some cabbage, and that was it, which is all well, fine and good because my family ain't hurting for no food, child. Okay? But it was just the spirit in how they treated us. There was no compassion. There was no type of sensitivity of the matter. They were very cold hearted people. And these are other black people. And then you all wonder why Jesus don't answer your fucking prayers. Then you got these stupid bitches online talking about people should leave occultism and go back to the church. Bitch, fuck you. Fuck you, bitch. Fuck you, bitch. And the broom you rode in on. Fake ass motherfucking wannabe ass witch. No, bitch, you had to. No, see, there's a difference too. Some of you are just bitches. You ain't no witches. Some of you are just bitches. And no offense to any real women out there. I'm talking about one particular person. A white one at that. But trying to tell black people what to do. Really? Nothing against, white women, of course. Nothing against white women. But this one is an embarrassment because she pretends to be black. The fuck I'm gonna listen to a confused bitch like that trying to tell people what they should and should not fucking do. Fuck you, bitch. Fuck you. But they treated my family very badly at that church. The pastor, he did not even preach at my grandmother's service. It was it was just very, very bad. And a lot of us looked around and saw that and said, why should we be a member? You want us to why should we feed our energy to that? That's almost similar to telling a abusive woman to stay in an abusive relationship with a man who's beating on her and abusing her children. That is what religion is built upon. Abuse and misuse and misinformation. That is the lies mixed with truth. Knowing damn well they got the lake of fire ideology or the lake of fire bullshit. They got that from the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the papyrus. And the lake of fire, from what I understand, is for purification, not a place of eternal torment. There is a place of eternal torment, but the only people that send you there is you. And that's where a lot of these people are headed. Because they want to meet Jesus, but they don't want to meet Christ. See, Jesus was the man, but the energy that you're supposed to be tapping into is Christ energy, and that has nothing to do with religion. And I'm not trying to convince nobody of anything, because I know what the fuck I know. Now, when I do my short videos, that's a different part of me. But when I do my more longer videos, when I do my more longer ones, that's me tapping into, I guess you could say, my darker side. Because we all have a dual nature and we have to learn to embrace that. But within the alchemy of fear, they tell you to reject your dark nature and only cultivate your light nature. But the universe is not made up of only light. As a matter of fact, the universe is made up mostly of dark energy. So, how can you ignore if we are part of the universe, which we are universes? How can you ignore one part of yourself and only cultivate the other? And then you wonder why the world and the universe is in an imbalance. That is because there are people with a collective consciousness who only want people to be on one side, because when you're on, and then they tell you, oh, don't do this and don't do that. They'll tell you, don't tap into that. Don't tap into that darkness. They'll tell you that. All the while, they're doing exactly what they're telling you not to do. It's the alchemy of fear. And a lot of these people are fear alchemists. They're not Christians. They're not religious. They're not spiritual. They're not occultists. They are fear alchemists. They're fear alchemists. And their sole purpose is to promote fear. And a lot of them have archonic, let's just say archonic bloodlines. They are here serving their archonic masters because a lot of them were created. A lot of them, if we really want to be technical, Black people came from the great mother Sophia, at least some of us, or a great deal of us. But then there are others who came from the God that created this world, Yahweh, Yaldabaoth. If you really want to be honest and technical, the story of Yaqub is not that far away, it's not too far-fetched to connect Yaqub to Yahweh. Yaqub, the scientist, the one they said that created the white race, it is not that far-fetched to connect him to Yahweh. Because he was an evil, mad scientist that wanted to create another type of species to rule over God's people. Isn't that what they say? So it's not that far-fetched for me to see Yaqub as actually being the so-called Yahweh that they talk about, not the Most High, as you all try to call him. No, Yahweh is not the Most High. And I don't give a fuck who that offends. It could offend your motherfucking grandmother. I don't give a fuck. It's time that we stop pretending and stop holding back. They don't hold back. Say what the fuck you want to say and do what the fuck you want to do. That's what real spirituality is all about. You take whatever path you want to take, but the goal is to go into it and to end it with having a heart that's pure and genuine and light as a feather. But some of these motherfuckers, they don't have no hearts because some of them are not even human. Just like I was listening to some ridiculous bullshit that Andrew Tate said. Another fucking weirdo, Antichrist. He said he doesn't like food. Food is gross to him. He only eats the bare minimum. How can any woman be married or deal with something like that? But yet he's single, right? He's single and facing all of these charges, right? Allegedly. We don't even know what's going on with him now. One minute he's facing charges, the next minute he's not. You know why he says things like that? Because he's not human. He's a cyborg, but a lot of people listen to him. A lot of people take what he says. And if I'm not mistaken, he's Islamic. Now, one thing I will give him credit for, he did win me over on one thing. He said that if his son was gay, he would accept his son with love and everything. And I'll give him that much. But everything else, that's if he's even telling the truth about that. He may have just been saying that for public, for publicity or whatever. But everything else about him is disgusting. What normal human does not enjoy food? The taste of food, the experience of food. That lets me know right there he is not black. He is not black, even though he tries to claim black and say his father was black, whatever. He is not black. And black people are taking that same trajectory as well. I'm not talking about being a glutton. I'm not talking about doing that. But who cannot sit and enjoy a little bit of ice cream? Who doesn't know that joy of enjoying a cookie or enjoying like I saw somebody that I'm subscribed to, I love her channel. She posted on her community board how someone had made some toast with some avocado, like not jelly, but they made some bread and they made an avocado sauce or some sauce out of an avocado and spread it on the bread, avocado spread. Who wouldn't enjoy something like that? And then they try to shame people for enjoying food. You know why they shame people for enjoying food? Because they want you to be in poverty. Like the UN telling the United States, we need to stop eating so much meat. Fuck you. Fuck the UN. Fuck the UN. You don't tell me. See, that's what I'm talking about. Alchemist of fear. Always telling people what they should be doing and what they should not be doing. Fuck you. How has the world been better since the UN has come about anyway? What power does the UN really have for the betterment of our society on a global level? For civilization? Telling them we need to stop eating so much meat for the environment. See, this is all the alchemy of fear. The alchemy of fear is very powerful. And within the alchemy of fear is illusions. And that is where a lot of people with mental diseases, that's where a lot of them go to. They attach to the false light of the alchemy of fear because fear can also give you light. You can also get light from fear. But it's an illusionary light. It can give you information that's not true, that can feed fear. And it can come from something that looks like a light being. On a side note, has anyone ever noticed how Keanu Reeves looks like the white images of Jesus that we've seen all of our lives? Has anyone also noticed how Jim Jones, the cult leader, with his sunglasses on, has anyone ever noticed how he has or bears a striking resemblance to Elvis Presley? I'm just asking a question, because I'm a Virgo and I details and I'm analytical and all that. I'm not making any claims. But when you compare Keanu Reeves to the images of Jesus, they look similar. Is that why they picked him to play Neo, a Christ-like figure in the Matrix? And isn't it interesting that Jim Jones and Elvis died not long after each other? I think Elvis died in 1977. Jim Jones died in 1978. Very interesting. And they both died under mysterious circumstances. Very interesting, if you ask me. I was watching. I was watching. I don't, and personally, I don't think Elvis Presley was a racist. I don't think he was a racist. And the reason I don't think he was a racist is not because I was a fan of his or I idolized him. He was before my time. He died way before I was born. The reason that I don't think he was a racist is because of how he treated his black cook, Mary Jenkins, in particular. He bought her a house. He was giving that woman jewelry. And I know he was not having sex with her because that would not have been his type to have sex with. She wasn't a lover of his, she wasn't a family member of his. I don't think Elvis was racist. And I think that is along the lines of the alchemy of fear as well. Now, I know some people may disagree, which I don't give a fuck about. You can disagree. But when I look at the evidence, there is no evidence to suggest that Elvis was a racist. As a matter of fact, people say he had his demons. He was a good guy, but he wasn't perfect. He had his problems. But they never said that he was racist. And there have been several women who worked for him who were black, who really kind of spoke kind of highly of him, especially Mary Jenkins, who he called May We. And I find it very interesting how she died under mysterious circumstances in 2000. She was 78 years old. She died of a stroke. I don't see any reason why Miss Jenkins couldn't have lived longer. I don't see why she could. It's just something eerie about her death. It's something eerie about her death to me. And I'm not going down the conspiracy rabbit hole, but I'm just saying. I'm just saying. She died in the year 2000. She was 78 years old. I heard she had a stroke. Elvis gave her a house. He gave her a house, gave her cars, gave her jewelry. He was really good to her. To me, that does not constitute a person being a racist. Now, I understand that there are racists. I'm not denying that. But my question is, why would they want Elvis to be labeled a racist if he really wasn't? I'm just speculating. Why would they want him to be labeled as a racist if he really was not a racist? Go and look up Mary Jenkins, Elvis's cook, and listen to how she speaks about him. Just listen to how she speaks about him. I don't know. Let me just say this. I question it because there is a quote that people are famous for saying that Elvis made a comment that the only thing black people are good for was shining his shoes and buying his records. But when you go behind the scenes and you do research, you find out that Elvis really had an admiration for black people. Allegedly. Let me say allegedly. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because this falls under the alchemy of fear and everything that I'm talking about. Because when you don't have all of the information, it leaves room for fear and for doubt. Self-doubt and doubt leads to fear. I just wish more people would have a mind of their own. I just wish more people would have a mind of their own and would think instead of just believing something. You know what I mean? Because I don't believe everything that I hear and I don't believe everything that I see. I'm not saying that Elvis was not a racist. What I'm saying is I don't necessarily believe what I'm hearing about that. Now, anybody else, Donald Trump, anybody else, I get it. I get it. But the evidence suggests something totally different about Elvis. And I don't care what other people think. I don't care about that. I'm looking at the evidence. I'm not an Elvis fan. Not an Elvis fan. So this is not coming from a place of me being a fan of his. But it just makes you wonder, why would they say he's a racist, but then there's no real evidence to support that, but then there's evidence to support otherwise. I'm not going to call somebody a racist if they're not a racist. I'm not going to do that. I want that to be reserved for the people that are really racist, for the system that is really racist. Y'all heard about what happened to Derek Chauvin, or Chauvin, whatever that motherfucker's name is. Y'all heard what happened to him in jail, didn't you? They said that he was stabbed 22 times. Who the fuck is trying to take him out? I know people are rejoicing in that, and that's fine, all well, fine and good. I know a lot of us are. But my question is, what does Derek Chauvin really know about what happened with George Floyd? And what is Derek Chauvin really connected to? And who has he been talking to? Because Spirit is showing me he's been talking. He's been talking to some people and revealing some revelations and exposing some things about that George Floyd incident. Is that why they sent somebody in there? A former FBI informant, from what I understand, was the person who's serving federal time who stabbed him. See, we got to look at the evidence, but we don't question anything anymore because they have us under the fear of alchemy effect. That we don't question anything. Just like I questioned why was that minister getting this better treatment than the rest of us. And I know what people are going to say, well, that's the pastor and his family. They're supposed to be treated better. Says fucking who? Says fucking who? Anyway, I just felt like coming through and being a little sassy. I just wanted to come through and talk about that. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.